All right, let's jump right in. There's this new buzzword making the rounds. And you know what? It's costing companies a fortune. It's called Workslop. And today we're going to break down exactly what it is, why AI isn't the real villain here, and most importantly, how to actually fix it.
And look, this isn't just some fringe complaint from a few disgruntled managers. We're talking about major players like the Harvard Business Review putting out warnings. They're saying this thing isn't just a minor headache, it is actively torpedoing productivity. So, what on earth are they talking about?
So let's be super clear. Workslop is any AI-generated stuff that looks amazing on the surface. Crisp presentations, detailed reports, but when you actually look closer, there's nothing there. It's totally hollow. It creates this powerful illusion that you're getting things done, when in reality, you haven't moved an inch closer to your actual goal.
And that illusion? Well, it comes with a very, very real price tag. We are not talking about some small-time inefficiency. No, this is a multi-million-dollar problem that's quietly sucking the resources right out of companies.
The scale of this is just wow. A recent study by BetterUp found that 40% of desk workers have been handed a piece of work slot in just the last month. That's almost half the office. This isn't some rare thing. For a lot of people, this is just another Tuesday.
And here's the real kicker, where it hits you personally. That same study found that every single time someone gets a piece of this work slot, it takes them an average of 2 hours to sort it out. 2 hours to figure out what it means, to fix it, or just to scrap it and start over. That is a huge chunk of your day just gone. Okay, so let's scale that up. For a pretty typical 10,000 person company, all that wasted time adds up to a mind-blowing $9 million a year in lost productivity. $9 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's a whole innovation budget, completely evaporated, all spent on trying to make sense of empty reports.
And if you want to see what this looks like in the wild, check this out. The author Nick Lighton tells this story about a client who proudly presented, get this, 40 AI-generated slide decks. 40! And they looked incredible, polished, professional, but the result? Absolutely zero progress. Not one of them actually moved the project forward. It was pure work slop. All activity, no impact.
Now, hearing all that, it really sounds like we should be blaming AI, right? I mean, the headlines sure make it seem that way. But what if we're pointing the finger at the wrong thing? What if AI isn't the real problem here?
Because here's the big twist. Workslop isn't an AI problem. It's a people problem. It's an organizational problem. AI is just acting like a giant, powerful mirror, showing us and amplifying all the cracks that were already there in our work culture. Really, it all boils down to what we're celebrating at work. So many companies are stuck in the past rewarding inputs. Things like how many reports you pump out or how many slides are in your deck. The real game changer is rewarding outcomes. Did we actually win the client? Did that report actually help us make a decision? AI is a machine for churning out inputs, but that's totally useless if we're not focused on what really matters.
I mean, here's a perfect example. There was a marketing team whose main goal, their KPI, was literally the number of reports delivered. So of course they started using AI and boom, their output doubled overnight. But you know what happened to client satisfaction? It cratered. It went right through the floor. Why? Because no one was even reading the reports. The team was crushing its target but completely failing at its actual job. So if the tool isn't the real problem, we've got to dig deeper. It turns out there are 3 hidden root causes that are really feeding this whole mess. This is the why behind all the slop. First up, we've got misaligned incentives. We're rewarding people for looking busy instead of for actually being effective. Second, legacy processes. You know what I'm talking about. Those weekly 30-page status reports that everyone hates making and nobody reads. They exist just because they've always existed. And third, a massive lack of training. Leaders are saying, go, use AI, but they're not showing anyone what good actually looks like, so everyone's just guessing.
But here's the good news. This is totally fixable. It just means leadership has to change its focus. So what can you actually do about it? Let's walk through the anti-slop playbook.
Okay, so the playbook starts right where you'd expect. Shift those incentives. Start rewarding real outcomes, not just the volume of work. Next, you have to hunt down and eliminate fake work. Do an audit of all those old, useless processes and be brave enough to just cut them. It's also so important to model what quality work looks like and give your teams real, structured time to practice. And finally, you got to build a culture where everyone understands that an AI's first draft is just that, a starting point, raw clay to be molded, not the finished statue. And you want to know how big a difference this can make? Get this. One team was stuck in that weekly ritual of creating a 30-slide update deck. After they audited it, they replaced the whole thing with a single clear KPI dashboard. The result? They made faster decisions, and they got 25 hours of productive time back every single week. That's literally turning wasted time back into real work. So what does all this mean for where we're headed? Well, as tech like AI gets even more powerful, I'm talking about autonomous agents and things we can't even imagine yet. These lessons become more than important. They become absolutely critical. And if you're thinking, well, the next version of AI will just fix all this, think again. These new tools will only solve the problem if leadership fixes the culture first. If your incentives are broken, a more powerful tool is just going to create more sophisticated junk faster than ever. Technology cannot save a flawed culture. It just puts it on steroids.
So in the end, it all comes down to one single question that every single leader, every single person really, needs to be asking. Are we just measuring activity, or are we actually creating impact? Because in this new age of AI, the gap between those two things has never been bigger, and the choice has never been more important.